And when you think of, when you think you have seen it all with Nigeria and its political party, as well as the political class and space, something comes along to shake your very core and makes you wonder, God, why did you bring me to this country? Think of the most outrageous headline or news concerning Nigeria. No, seriously, think about it. Matter of fact, let me help you jog your memory. Walk down memory lane with me, will you? In 2013, during a televised interview, a top official of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Obafeye Sham, who was the Lagos State Commandant at the time, was asked, what is the official website of the NSCDC? The question should have been simple for a senior official to answer, but Sham became visibly flustered. In his attempt to provide an answer, he initially mentioned that the website was www.nscdc. But when pressed further, he faltered and famously said, I cannot categorically tell you one now because my Oga at the top will give you the website. When the interviewer pressed him for clarification, he kept emphasizing that his Oga at the top, a phrase implying his superior, would confirm the correct website. To make matters worse, when he eventually tried to state the website, he gave an incorrect one. And the official website was something basic for someone in his position to know. And the fact that he couldn't answer the question was seen as a sign of unpreparedness and inefficiency. As always, Nigeria. Let's not forget a bizarre and infamous case where a staff member in the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, alleged that a snake swallowed 36 million naira. In another scenario, a government clerk also said a monkey stole 70 million naira from a senator's farmhouse. That's not all. During a live-streamed public hearing of the Nigerian Senate Committee investigating the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, in 2020, the public was treated to a now-viral phrase. As the hearing became heated, the chairman of the panel, Thomas Eriyo-Tomi, asked Senator Akpabio to off your mic, saying, Honorable Minister, it's okay, off your mic. The phrase became instantly iconic, symbolizing the silencing of dissent or avoiding awkward questions or probe. It inspired countless memes and social media jokes, even being used as slang in everyday conversations. For example, you can ask me to off my mic. I wouldn't. There's also our First Lady as well, the former First Lady of Nigeria, Dame Patience Jonathan, the wife of the former President Goodluck Jonathan. And she was often at the center of humorous moments due to her unique way of expressing herself. In the tragic comedy that followed the April 2014 kidnap of the nearly 300 girls at the government school, girls' secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, Patience Jonathan, the wife of the then president at the time, worsened an already sad affair by trivializing it. In what looked like a well-rehearsed drama, she openly lambasted officials of the Borno State government and the school principal and suggested that nobody was kidnapped. Then she went on to shed crocodile tears in front of the cameras, and she was wailing, there is God, oh, all this blood that you are sharing in Borno. Remember, there is God in everything we are doing, oh, there is God, oh. She also famously asked the school principals, now only you waka come, which, of course, loosely translates to you came alone. She was probably expecting more officials from the state. Now, the video went viral, as it normally does with social media, and went global, and the joke was on her at a time that the world was mourning the plight of hundreds of kidnapped teenagers and girls. And during her speech, she was interrupted by some attendees, which even prompted her to respond sharply with the now very famous line, will you keep quiet? Her tone and delivery made it even more memorable. The moment was widely circulated on social media, leading to a furor of, again, memes and jokes. Let's not forget the Jubril from Sudan and the clone conspiracy theories when President Muhammadu Buhari spent an extended period abroad for medical treatment. Rumors began to circulate on social media that Buhari had died and been replaced by a body double, Jubril from Sudan. There's a Jubril here, by the way. The conspiracy theory, though entirely unfounded, gained traction and became a source of amusement for many Nigerians at the point that Buhari himself had to personally address this rumor. And he said, quote, "It's the real me, I assure you." The absurdity of the situation turned it into one of the most humorous yet bizarre moments in Nigeria's political narrative. You think we cannot get lower? We did. Though not strictly a political moment, there was the goat-eating exam scripts saga involving a professor at the University of Lagos, Unilag, who was called out by students after he claimed that a goat ate their examination papers. The excuse became a source of jokes and disbelief, often cited when talking about absurd excuses in the political arena. It was, referenced in various political conversations to highlight Nigeria's culture of unaccountability. So there you have it. All bizarre, all outrageous, all quite shameful. And you would think, well, I think I have seen it all. Nigerians have seen it all. But, my friends, no. Another level of this shamelessness has been attained, and it's by the members of this current administration. We have seen snakes swallow money, monkeys swallow money, monkeys eating examination scripts. The list is endless. But have you seen a governor-elect and his running mate kneel in subservience to the #1 citizen of Nigeria? Well, fresh off their victory in the controversial Saturday, September 21st, 2024 election, Senator Monday Okpebholo, who is the governor-elect of Edo State, and his deputy governor-elect, Dennis Idahosa, knelt at the knee to greet President Bola Tinubu. The duo paid a homage to the president at Aso Rock on Thursday, September 26, 2024, to present their certificates of return and also knelt to him. In a video posted on the X account of the special assistant to the president on social media, Dada Olusegun, Okpebholo and Idahosa can be seen bending to the knee and shaking President Tinubu. Shraibu and a couple of other APC chieftains also made a similar gesture as the president received them with warm smiles. A new level, I tell you. But this isn't the first time we're seeing very questionable show of respect to the president, President Bola Tinubu. As members of his administration and cabinet, they, whether elected or appointed, have shown exactly where their loyalties lie. And it's not to the people. I mean, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, asked permanent secretaries to bow before the president in a show of appreciation for the jobs they have just been given. And that's how I know we are Africans, and we always go back to our roots no matter what. Because where else in our culture does a man with a scary voice force you to bow before an old deity? Yes, a shrine. And so as they chant, "On your mandate we shall stand," and bend at the knee to greet with the kind of reverence Nigerians reserve for their religious leaders. And as October 1st fast approaches, maybe we the people, should learn a thing from these politicians. If we bend at the knee and chant the worship song, the praise of Jagaban, "On your mandate we shall stand," maybe, just maybe, we will be out of these perilous times. Oh, don't you think so, Mazino?
I just can't wait to pick out a winner from this big, vast basket of entertaining gems that you've given us this morning.
Oh, there's so much.
When you get back here.
On your mandate we shall stand, Jagaban. Anyway, that's a song for today, by the way. Let's get started, shall we? And bring you all the absurdities and all the oddities and all the outrageousness.
And the teas.
And the teas. That is Nigerian government. Welcome to Breakfast Extra.
Okay.
your
I hear you.
mandate we
I'll let her know. So Judith, yeah, the crew behind would like to tell you that they have a winner, and it's none other than there is God, there is God. That was entertaining.
Thank you.
But it also features the sad reality of Nigeria.
It is. It
But I
really
want to
does.
ask you one question. If
Yeah.
you were faced with a moment of meeting the president right now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, how would you greet him, however? I like to balance this out by adding... And this is all right, isn't it? Isn't it? But it's okay. As a Nigerian girl, an elderly man, you would greet him so. So the argument is that they were simply just doing what culture insists.
That's
that
why I
they
said
do.
we're respectful. We're very respectful people. Aren't we?
I do note, however, the kind of picture that it paints to the larger audience.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly why people would have reservations regarding that manner of greeting in what should be a formal setting.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why we don't go dobaling in suits. But we could if we were in that kind of a setting. So perhaps it's just a misplacement of priorities. Yeah, you're correct as well. Maybe that wasn't the exact kind of situation.
And also when you are, again, the elections were quite controversial, It was quite controversial.
Not the picture you want to paint.
Yeah, exactly. It's very controversial. You might want to do that behind closed doors, and then to go ahead to post it on social media.
Yeah, I know. It's a situation here in Nigeria. Just in case you're watching from outside, this is what we have to deal with. We're still looking for examination papers that have been eaten by goats. Money's eaten by snakes and baboons and everything. It's like the ecosystem here is being governed by animals. I am a baboon. I live in a zoo.
Oh, cheers to that. Oh, my God. That's a good one. Oh, I missed that one.
Until they come and carry us away. She wrote the script. I didn't. But I will tell you something. Of all that you mentioned this morning, my best pick would be the Jubril instance.
Oh,
because it was such an interesting one. Finally, Nigerians get with that kind of storytelling where they actually can accept the possibility of a body double, no less the president being that body. And the fact that those kind of arguments were also debated on the national television and on radio.
I mean, I could not believe it. I was like, what is happening? First of all, do we have that kind of money for that type of high tech to be able to clone our president? Be for real.
It was interesting. I love Nigeria, and I do miss President Buhari. I do miss that man.
Do you know who I miss?
His calm nature.
Do you know who I miss?
You people can just be doing
I
your
assure
own.
you.
I assure you. You got that right.
But you know who I missed?
What, who?
Of course, known as that Dame Patience.
Oh, yes. No, but of course, I mean, everybody in the background, they picked her as their best
friend.
The award goes to... Dame Patience Jonathan. If only we could have her here. I was speaking to... Collins, who's a producer here for News Central for Breakfast Extra, and I said that if she was to get on social media today, I believe that the former First Lady would actually get at least 500,000 followers that very moment.
She is unbelievably an icon as well as a wonderful character. But I also think that she means well as well.
Oh, yes. Oh,
she means well. She's just not a... She's not the conventional orator, I would say.
Of all the first ladies we've had in the history of Nigeria, I think she was the most connected to the roots, connected to the grassroots, connected to women. She was a real person. She wasn't putting up any appearance like that.
Yeah, she was able to appeal to the women as well because she could speak in their language.
And I think that also extends to her husband as well. He was a very people type of person.
Yes, he was.
People type of president he actually was. So,
yes, he was.
Yeah, thank you for the memories.
Thank you for allowing me to take us down memory lane.
Yes, it took plenty of our time.
I beg you.
Let's do this now. Thank you very much for joining us for a Sunday edition for Breakfast Extra. As always, we've got quite the show lined up for you with in-depth analysis and also stellar guests that we've prepared to make for an informative show. So join us this morning as we assess Nigeria. We're going to be assessing the correctional service and reforms following the allegation of, this is one that Judith missed inside of a prologue.
I beg you, Jay.
Corruption and bribery, the Bobrisky versus EFCC case, which was big and everybody's been talking about it all week up until now. We'll also tackle unemployment, see how serious I got, and how best to navigate the labor market. And afterwards, we head to Delta State as we unravel the truth behind the masterminds of Hustler's Kingdom. This is Nigeria. Lastly, we're going to head to Ghana. And of course, as Ghana, the protests that have broken out in the capital ahead of the December general elections. We're going to be talking about that here today for Breakfast Extra. So get to find out these and more on the show this morning, only if you stay with us all 3 hours until the end of the show. But let's bring you the dailies first, like Judith asked from before. And of course, we are going to be doing that. Let's just do this. There we go.
There we go.
And the Nation newspaper is first on our take. Big headline here. My uncle makes it again. Week 8 to PDP governors backing Fubara. I'm bigger than all of you. Did I get that right? I am big. No, I can't do it. Says detractors put together can't withstand him. He is a force. We're sorry for governors' misdeeds, says Rivers Ijo, and mocks Fubara's camp for choosing APP. Fintiri, I'll continue to associate with Wike, but why not? At the very top for the Nation, Constitution Review, Northern Southern senators disagree over regional government, and witness how I delivered $15.8 million cash to ex-governor Suswam at home. There's still other headlines at the bottom here. Uncertainty in states over new minimum wage as it takes off. An Independence Day, Niger Delta youths and butcher traders reject protests. There are plenty of riders here. Lagos CP meets organizers, promises maximum security and professionalism. I like that. And states follow FG lead. Mall low-key celebrations. And finally, if I should die giving birth, how Anita Nathaniel woke up during cesarean session, died in agony. I saw a movie like that once, a guy being operated on. It was called Awake. And he was awake throughout the entire period of his operation. And makes you wonder if that it is possible. They have told that it is possible. And here, of course, you can see the story here, how she...
I'm very lucky I've never been under the knife.
Have I ever? No, I haven't.
No.
That was a madman trying to catch me. That's a different situation.
Moving on. We're moving from the Nation now all the way now to Sunday Independent for you this morning. And as we switch gears now from the Nation to Sunday Independent, the very first story that comes at you there for the Sunday Independent, Constitution reform, Northern senators reject regionalism. It will speed up socioeconomic development, Southern senators. What we need are institutions to guarantee justice, equity, Ali Ndume. Regionalism not matter for Constitution review. Bamidele Okpayemi, you can find the story on page 2 on the Sunday Independent. At the top there, Borno flooding. Federal government begins impact assessment on livestock. That story is on page 7. Tinubu's directives increased oil production from 1.4 million to 1.7 million barrel per day. NNPCL, that story is on page 4. 6 kidnapped farmers rescued by security operatives in Katsina. That story is on page 8. Let's go down there. Analysts pick holes in Edo governorship election. It's a celebration of brigadage Onovo. INEC police clearly partisan, and that's from Eboho. That story is on page 4. Nnamdi Kanu stakeholders tackle federal government judiciary over continued trial. That story is on page 3. Used smartphone shipments still flourishing to hit 257 million units in 2028.
Big deal.
I know. That's a big one. That story is on page 5. And then finally, for the Sunday Independent, 2 dams in Plateau, Enugu on verge of completion. That story, that statement there is from the minister. You can find more on this on page 3 on the Sunday Independent.
Alrighty, now moving on to the Sunday Punch newspaper. October 1st protest will hold at Eagle Square. Organizers tell police protesters not afraid of police, say Sore and Adeyanju. IG orders police deployment from Monday. That's tomorrow. And Buhari's aide tackles CBN over printing of 35 trillion naira. Elderly Nigerians take on grueling work amid children's neglect. Oh, that's sad.
Oh, that's really sad.
Black people can be excellent leaders, says first African female Chicago Health Commissioner. And my pregnant wife supported me coming to BBN. Is anybody watching? That's a real serious question. I do not mean to, but is anybody watching?
You're right.
Pause for effect. Let that land before we go on. FGVCs victimizing our members. ASU cries out, and some men assume I'm cheap because of my disability, says a female cobbler. Oh, no, you aren't. You're a rose. Unregistered packaged foods flood Lagos markets as regulatory agencies struggle. And of course, finally, other sexual harassment victims contacted me after my ordeal in army, says discharged soldier. And one thing about her is that she has personally taken it upon herself to make sure that her story is told. She's using different platforms, different fora to actually get this, and also appealing to notable female individuals to try come to her aid. Uju is. Interesting story that, and for the love of me, I just don't know where the truth lies. Whether with the military and their submission, or whether with her stories that she's been telling.
Yeah.
Very sad story.
Very sad.
She makes a very
strong case.
A strong case, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the military at this point in time, one has to ask, because oftentimes there are always cases like this levied against them, and when you go into, there's never enough probe or an investigation, and sometimes it just gets swept under the carpet.
Yeah, I would like to see from the military a bit more respect to the situation, because the way they're just pushing it away and like, it's nothing. You know, we're in support of the general. This is his record, and that's it.
Yeah.
There should be a bit more commitment to the story. I don't think it will get this bad, because right now it's beginning to look like as if she's garnering sympathy, is my point.
Right.
But let's find out the actual events, the truth, and let people know, so that fidelity, or rather the public's perception of the Nigerian army is strengthened instead of...
You know, this kind of cases doesn't just happen with Nigerian army. I've also seen this with the U.S. Army as well, and so the army in general have just been very quiet when it comes to issues like this. It's sad.
That's a word.
We're from Sunday Punch now to the Sunday Times now, and the very first one that comes at you at the top there is still on Constitution review. Regional government tiers, senators apart. Regions intensify lobby for development commissions despite unrealized goals. Senate approves one for Southwest Zone. And then at the bottom there, late arrival of materials, apathy, mar, and Anambra local government poll. ASU local government loggerhead. Students, parents panic over imminent closure of varsities. Ikeja 2024, 17-day cultural fiesta showcasing heritage of the ROs. Interesting. And lastly, how IDPs are renting farmlands for survival as insecurity persists. Wow. You can find all these and more on the Sunday Times. That's pretty much all of the headlines or rather all of the front pages for today that we can take. But not to worry, we get started officially on the show today to bring you our very first big story. And this time we are assessing the Nigeria's correctional system and reforms, plus also a look at the Bobrisky versus EFCC case.
Yes.
Allegations of corruption and bribery against the watchdog
itself.
Stay with us. For our first big story for today, we're looking into a high-profile scandal that has gripped the nation. Allegations of bribery involving the EFCC, the Nigeria Correctional Service, and social media influencer Bobrisky have raised serious concerns, and the House of Representatives has summoned key figures, including EFCC chairperson Ola Olukoyede, social media influencer Very Dark Man, and of course Bobrisky, over claims of corruption and bribery.
Joining us live in the studio to unpack these developments. Well, first off, here in the studio, we have a very interesting gentleman here. I'll introduce him next. However, Mr. Dennis Amakri, a security consultant and also former assistant director of the Department of State Service, is joining us via video call. Good morning, sir. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
Yes. And now back inside of the studio, we're being joined by Justice Ejeno, an experienced legal practitioner with expertise in criminal law. Thank you very much for joining.
It's my pleasure.
Good to have you back here.
It's my pleasure.
All right.
We're coming on.
Very interesting set of names to put together. Olukoyede, Bobrisky, and Very Dark Man. Not a time in my life I thought that these three names would be in the same place, but here it is. And I'm going to ask you two gentlemen, first of all, what you guys think about your first thoughts on this matter. Let's ask Mr. Makri, what's your thought on this issue here with the big picture that has been painted of perhaps maybe the EFCC, the watchdog itself, now being under the microscope. Mr. Bakri.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting subject. You see, a lot of things have been going on, and before you know it, we get some kind of hidden facts coming out, you know, from unexpected areas, very unexpected areas, you know. In fact, I was very worried when I first saw what's his name, Bobrisky, going to jail. And you need to see the luggages that Bobrisky was taking. In fact, I was asking some friends, I said, is this person traveling or going to jail? Because in jail, you are going to wear a uniform and then, you know, remain in the jail. But these luggages, I think about 2 or 3 pieces, what is that happening? But we didn't know, we just laughed over it, but actually now it is coming to light that, you know, the corruption has dug right down, whereby Bobrisky was actually going on vacation.
Justice, this, like Mr. Bakri has just noted, is it's putting our security and also prisons correctional system in a very bad light. I don't know if you agree with me, Julie.
Of course.
Absolutely bad light. Your take on it as a legal practitioner?
For me, it just generally reminds me of the narco state, Colombia, and Don Pablo, Pablo Escobar, when he was given the opportunity to build La Catedral,
yes,
his own private prison, in order to be and fitted with all possible creature comforts, in order for him to be able to spend time that practically he sentenced himself to. So I think that that's, unfortunately, that it's not strange now that we are comparing Nigeria to the narco states with respect to how persons who have been determined by the court to go and serve some form of punishment and the kind of luxury that they seem to be enjoying. So for me, that's generally how I perceive it, and it's so hurtful that everybody is supposed to be treated as equals. And as Mr. Makri said, when you go to prison, in fact, not just prison, when you go to a police detention center, they practically tell you, empty everything that's in your pocket, they search you, they frisk you. They don't just take what's on your person, they also try to search your extremities to ensure that you are not hiding some things, maybe in your mouth or in some other parts of your body. Yeah, cavities, thank you. But we have a situation where people are practically embarking on a vacation trip. Wow. And for me, it is very shameful. It's so shameful. Let me just leave it at that.
Vacation trip, indeed. I mean, what's interesting in all of this, and when we start to unpack this and try to look at it in its entirety, number one is the allegations of corruption and bribery that Bobrisky had to borrow money in the tune of about 15 million to pay EFCC. So there's that, and there's also the part of the correctional, the correction and the prisons, in this case, of him having to go slave or serve his time in a serviced apartment or a separate apartment. And so we can unpack this in terms of our correctional services and its reforms, and also the allegations of bribery and corruption to EFCC. But I want to start with the legal part of it, and I'll come to you for that one, Justice. The legal implication of Bobrisky paying that sum to EFCC and EFCC being implicated in this, plus the correctional services.
Okay, for me, I think that what happened, especially the way the EFCC came back into this picture, was the fact that they dropped some charges. I think it's count 5 and count 6, bordering on money laundering. And if that had sailed, if that had been one of the considerations in court, he won't have it this easy. We won't be talking about 6 months. So depending on the gravity and the discretion of the judge, he might end up getting up to 10 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, depending on the counts and how grave or how deep he has been said to be into it. See, when it comes to criminal, whether a person is going to be charged to court or not, there is usually negotiations between the defense counsel and the prosecution, in this case, the EFCC. And there are a lot of considerations. Sometimes, genuinely, the prosecution can think that, oh, will I, at the end of the day, have enough evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed Mr. Idris did commit the offense of money laundering. Sometimes they introspect and see that, okay, they may not be able to prove beyond all these allegations, and they just drop the charges. But if, in fact, it is found out that some monies changed hands, and that was the consideration, and not just the paucity of evidence, that was the consideration for them dropping the charges, I think that it is very, very wrong and very, very unfortunate. And everybody that participated in the whole process that resulted in those charges being dropped, I think they should be taken to the cleaners. They should be excised from the anti-corruption body.
Justice, and now that he's now the director or the chairman of the EFCC have now been summoned by the House, it's very interesting. I hope to see what that, what the summoning will be and what the line of questioning will be for him. But let me come to you, sir. I know that you are there, and I would like to ask you this question. I mean, I'm looking at the statement that was made during a televised interview with the Director General of the Prison Rehabilitation Mission, and that's Bishop Kayode Williams. He explained the accommodations provided for inmates based on different categories. And I'm going to quote him here. He said that there are accommodations for condemned prisoners, those sentenced to death, who must not mingle with other inmates. The second accommodation is convicted inmates who are the owners of the prison. When addressing Bobrisky's situation, he added that the accommodation that is provided for males, are they going to bring Idris, which is transgender body, look to go and sleep in the general cell? The first thing they do is decide how to treat someone like that. They provide him a special place for protective custody because with his appearance, he would be in danger. He looks like a woman, moves like a woman, and there are homosexual inmates who would be willing to take things to extreme lengths. Now, I'd like for you to respond to that before I get to my next question.
Yes, I totally agree with the bishop. Because the segmentation is there because you cannot mix, like it's just like mixing men and women, in the same prison. It is designed in such a way that you compartmentalize it, where women are in different section of the same prison or in different, like Kirikiri, for instance. There's a women wing and there is a men's wing. Now, Idris have said that in court, said that he's a man. And if he's a man, do we still send him to the women's section or we send him to the male section? And even if you send him to the female section, you see, what the bishop said is very, very educative. These are people that have been locked away for so long. Even women who had not had any kinds of emotional interaction with anybody. And this person coming in, even in the United States here, in fact, sometimes the police use it for interrogation purposes, where they say, you better tell us right now, otherwise, you go in there and they make a woman out of you. And the person will confess, thinking of what could happen,
Right.
So, it's something that we have to look at, even if it is in the same section. But very, very instructive is the demarcations and the different kinds of cells. Structurally, you don't just lock people down. And that is what the Nigerian Correctional Services Act 2019 was saying. There is the structural reforms that they are going to make, and then, of course, the other non-custodial reforms, and where you keep people and then, of course, allow them to learn skills and stuff like that. But I don't think they are keeping to this now.
So I'm so glad you're bringing this, because this takes us to my next question, which I was going to ask you earlier about reforms. The charges levied against Bobrisky was naira abuse. It wasn't. Is it criminal? And if it's not criminal, then why be in prison? I understand that the punishment is either 3 months in prison or something else. But is there not a way that we can do these reforms where charges that are not bordering on criminality in and of itself don't have to stay in prison for 3 months? It could be community service. It could be vocational training, instead of being at the prison, taking away the gender and the identity of Bobrisky and speaking more on the charges levied against him and whether or not he should even be in jail in the first place, or she.
I am he or she, right? Now, you know, I am an investigator by training, and I can tell you that there is more to this than meets the eye. And that's why you see the Internal Affairs Minister has suspended some people, and they are doing some kind of investigation. Even the EFCC is trying to. I think they should just unpack it, send it to the DSS, and let the DSS look at it with a neutral eye, because, you know, the investigation is deeper than this. One, the original charge of money laundering should be looked at. We believe strongly that there are some big fishes in there, and I think that's why the corruption thing is coming up. You know, there are some big fishes in there that, you know, have tried to manipulate the system to make sure that the corruption, the money laundering charge drops. And then, of course, let us just deal with the money spraying. Like you said, it is not a very, very tough offense. After all, there was another guy, some guy that yes, the chief, this thing, he was let go after paying some fines. So they would have done the same thing, you know. But why is this guy going to prison? I think it was to compensate that money laundering thing. Although it was dropped, there is somebody out there that is seriously involved, and I think they should have to dig in and bring out that person, because it is in order not to expose that person, that they drop the charges and then, of course, ask Bobrisky to go for the minimal sentence that he went in. But unfortunately, this is coming out, and I think the investigation should dig deeper.
Justice, you want to go? You're going to react to this.
Yes,
high maximum prison for just a lesser count charge.
Yeah, okay. If I were a betting man, considering the number of years I have put into practice, if I were a betting man, I would have told Bobrisky, I would have given him exactly the same advice that his lawyer gave to him, which is plead guilty. Because 98 out of 100 times, the court will give you an option of fine, rather than tell you to do the 6 months that I did, even though it wasn't up to 6. It wasn't up to 6, but
ran out of rent.
Yes, but it's rent free usually. But so I was shocked when I saw the news. I put a call through to another of my colleagues who it shocked me to my bones that it could actually get that prison term. And just like Mr. Makri has alluded, it's possible. Judges, of course, the judge has a right. It is his discretion to actually choose which of the options or which of the punishments to levy upon a person who is already a convict. So, well, the judge exercised his discretion, or her discretion, Justice Aogboro exercised her discretion in that case like that, even though I was shocked to my bones, as I reiterate, but that things happen, and it could be that it's because the money laundering charges were dropped, and the judge just felt that a lot is happening that meets the eye.
It's very interesting because we do not remember the money laundering charge after all, and I bet at this point the EFCC's wishing that they never touched this story in the first place, because it's like it just embroiled everybody in it. Blood is touching everybody in local parlance. But two things here. First of all, I think even the director of prisons rehabilitation noted Bobrisky's beauty. Let's hand it to Bobrisky there, and said, no, we can't put this woman inside of the male population for his safety. Noted. But then again, there's a bigger question that it raises. Is Nigeria finally, out of this situation, going to admit that perhaps maybe there's a need to begin to recognize other sexual orientations or genders? Because if you're saying that we know you're a man, even if in court you say that you're a man, we still can't put you inside the male population. And we're not sure whether to put you inside the female population because we don't know what atrocities might happen there. Let's make a different arm for you. So is that discussion finally ripe, that Nigeria perhaps needs to start considering the acceptance of other genders?
Other identities?
Identities.
For me, you know, there's a huge difference between gender and identity. And for me, let me even tell you how funny it was for me practically. At about that time, I went to prison. If you observe, Bobrisky was actually prosecuted in Ikoyi, Federal High Court Ikoyi. So the next logical, as a practitioner, next logical place where he'll be held, especially because he's a male, is Ikoyi prisons. Also because his offense is not that much and all. So when I got there, we were to deal with another matter. I asked the correctional people, how far now? Wait, Bob there? And they were like, yes, he was here, but he has been moved. To where? They refused to give me further details. And the major thing they told me at the time was because he needed to be treated in a separate way. But as to whether we should now create, or our correctional services should recognize a separate gender or a separate identity, I do not think so.
But the peculiarities
they should treat Bobrisky, because of the peculiarity of the situation, maybe he should also be treated like they would have treated a governor, for example, or a head of state, just randomly because his situation is peculiar. That's the reason why I think that they should put him in an isolated place, or bring some other permutations that will ensure his safety and security. Because unlike what our correctional services do, they forget that these persons that find themselves in those places, the court has already levied the punishment. The punishment for them is the restriction of their liberty. And they are not necessarily subhumans. They are not necessarily lesser human beings because they found themselves there. They are supposed to still enjoy every possible right that accrues to them as human beings, aside from the right to freedom of movement.
Justice, speaking of, let's leave identity, leave the correctional reforms, leave gender, and let's now talk about EFCC as the watchdog of corruption and bribery, financial crimes in Nigeria. Let's look at this. And I want, first of all, I'm going to start with you, sir, to help me to understand this. With these allegations levied against this, away from the consequences when it comes to legal, because I know Justice spoke about this, but away from the consequences legally, what does this say about the public perception of EFCC, the watchdog for financial crimes?
Okay, you know, to me, as you know, part of the intelligence or security community, I felt very, very embarrassed, because you see, it is something that when some institutions or agencies of government who are, you know, highly placed, you know, are rubbished or brought down to all kinds of market women conversations, it becomes worrisome. Because the people have always respected the EFCC. Respected the EFCC. And the EFCC, of course, we know that it has touched certain places. But recently, we are discovering that they are very selective and their operations are trying to be very skewed, because I don't see any reason why Yahya Bello, for instance, will be playing this cat and mouse with the EFCC. They've let themselves down. If they cannot arrest Yahya Bello, they can seek for some kind of support from even the DSS to get him, and they will get him. But to be playing cat and mouse with him, there is a governor there, the governor have immunity. The governor's immunity does not have anything to do with this. If he like, he can come with him. That guy is going to be arrested in front of the governor and taken away, because arresting him does not have anything to do with the immunity of the governor. And the governor himself should be responsible enough to recognize that you don't misuse, because he's abusing his immunity by trying to cover up Yahya Bello. And these are the kinds of things that they've dragged themselves down to. Then he came to your office and he stayed there for some hours and nothing happened because you don't want to arrest him in front of I don't understand. I think let them go down to the House and answer the questions that the members of the House of Rep are going to ask them, because it blows my mind that they have to put themselves in this kind of situation.
Mr. Makri, I've got a question for you. Regarding this case, now, the chairperson of the EFCC, Mr. Olukoyede, and also the, if I'm not, Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji, they've called for a comprehensive probe, an investigation, internal investigation into the issue. Now, we've seen this before when investigations are called for. We start talking about it on television, radio stations start talking about it, then it's reduced to print, and then after that, social media. After that, it dies. And then 5 years later, somebody remembers that this thing is still out there, or how about this? How effective will this call for a probe or an investigation go when it comes to these internal investigations that are asked for? How effective would this be, sir?
Thank you very much for this question. I think one big problem we have in Nigeria is the media, what do we call it now? Media judgments or media trials.
Public jury.
That are going on, because this is a case that has happened. We expect the EFCC to go ahead and investigate, and we don't want it to be investigated on media, because that is what is going on these days, whereby people are bringing their own ideas. They don't even care if they sub judice, They go ahead and then start discussing it, and then, But what we should do is that when cases like this happen, the correctional services, or either even the EFCC itself, should keep quiet about it for immediately, do the internal investigation, get whatever they want to get out of it, and then, of course, bring it to the public. Because that is one problem we have in Nigeria, whereby, just like you said, they can investigate. I use the one of Beta Edu, of the humanitarian ministry, where it is media all over the place. Everybody's, pursuing it. How about better, cartoonists are driving their cartoons. People, comedians are into it and everything. And the noise will go ahead and on and on and on and on. And after about 6 weeks, I think that's what General Ibrahim Babangida said, after 6 weeks or how many months, you don't hear about it again. And then, of course, it's 3 times a week. And Nigerians are that kind where they will forget. They forget People are not talking about it again, and somebody might bring it up once in a while, and after a while it dies away. We should not do that. If there's an investigation, we want to know the outcome.
Okay.
Make it public and let everybody know.
We're pressed for time. We're pretty much out of time. I was going to ask Justice here about what will be the outcome of the probe. Okay, I've been given the go-ahead. What do you think will be the outcome of the probe with the invitation to Olukoyede to the House of Reps?
Okay, for me, I actually think that Olukoyede is not exactly on the spot because it is his subordinates that probably will take the fire. So generally, I also have a bankruptcy of trust in investigations generally in Nigeria. Tell me one investigation that has been concluded and whoever is indicted is found guilty. All the FCC chairmen so far, none of them have completed their tenure. They've all gone out by way of investigation yet till now, not either guilty or not.
I mean, the rhetorical question here that we're going to take away from this is the Economic Financial Crimes Commission corrupt? And I'll leave it at that.
Big question.
That's a big question for us to take home. But, sir, I want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dennis Amatri, I want to say thank you for coming on. Member of the Niger. He is a security consultant and the ex-director at the DSS. And we also have Justice Ichiono. He's an experienced, wonderful legal practitioner. He joined us here today.
Gentlemen.
Fantastic
I wanted to say, these were not the circumstances I wanted to meet you, sir. Not under a Bobrisky conversation. But thank you for honoring our invitation.
You couldn't
thank you as well, Justice.
Thank you again, gentlemen. We're going to go on a short break. When we come back on the other side, Mazzino is going to be on standby to bring you the headline news. Stay with us.
Welcome. The headlines this hour. Let's begin by telling you that President Bola Tinubu has called on developed nations to honor their commitments of mobilizing $100 billion annually for climate change. Speaking at the 79th United Nations General Assembly, Onga, in New York, Tinubu's message, delivered by Environment Minister Malam Balarabe Abbas Lawal, emphasized that these funds are not just financial obligations, but moral imperatives for supporting climate adaptation and mitigation in developing nations. Tinubu stressed that effective climate action requires adequate financing, which is critical for building climate-resilient infrastructure, transitioning to sustainable energy, and protecting vulnerable communities from climate change impacts. And more in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Let's also tell you that President Bola Tinubu has submitted the names of the inaugural governing board members for the Northwest Development Commission to the Senate for confirmation. This follows the president's recent assent to the bill sponsored by Deputy Senate President Senator Barau Jibrin, aimed at accelerating development in the Northwest geopolitical zone, which include Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Jigawa, Sokoto, and Zamfara states. And in more news, the federal government has declared Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, a public holiday to commemorate Nigeria's 64th Independence Day. This announcement was made by the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, in a statement issued by the ministry's permanent secretary, Dr. Magdalene Ajani. Tunji-Ojo extended his congratulations to Nigerians, both at home and abroad, praising their resilience and hard work. He emphasized that their sacrifices will not be in vain. While wishing the nation a happy Independence Day, the minister urged all Nigerians to remain steadfast in their commitment to nation building. Now to election matters. Low voters turnout marred Saturday's local government elections conducted in the 326 political wards and 5,891 polling units across the 21 local government areas of the state. News Central correspondent Austin Azu in Anambra, who monitored the exercise, reports that the poll is the first in 10 years to elect chairmen and councillors at the grassroots of governance in the state. His report. We'll bring you that on a later time. Now, stakeholders have once again reiterated the call for the Nigerian government to include diaspora voting in its electoral process. Speaking at News Central Television Town Hall series held earlier yesterday, late in Nigeria at about 4 p.m. In New York, a former Minister of Education and founder of Human Capital Africa, Obi Ezekwesili, maintained that the Nigerians in the diaspora have the capacity for partnership, knowledge and finance.
Second journey in America, when I came back again and was Vice President of the World Bank for Africa region in Washington, D.C., I basically said to our team, there is no way we can talk of improving development in Africa without the African diaspora. What has happened is that incentive to live at home went in the other direction, and so they voted with their feet and came out and are concentrated with their knowledge outside of Africa. If we do not take charge of or fully integrate the knowledge that they bring into our development process, we are not doing it right. And so I think it was 2007, 2008, we launched the diaspora program at the World Bank during my time there. And the rest, as they say, became history. It's not just intellectual for me. It is something that really goes to the heart of whether we can take action by taking advantage.
We'll bring you the full package of that inside the 12 p.m. news. Now to security matters. In Borno State, a notorious Boko Haram terrorist, Buchu Abacha, has surrendered to troops of the Multinational Joint Task Force stationed in Kukara local government area. Now, this was confirmed by the MNJTF Information Officer Lieutenant Colonel Olani Osoba Obuchu, a highly ranking figure in the Boko Haram and ISWAP insurgency, admitted to participating in several terrorist operations along the Mungunu-Abaga axis. Recovered from Buchu were an AK-47 rifle, a magazine with 11 rounds of ammunition, a mobile phone, and 32,500 naira. Now to environmental matters. The Lagos and Ogun State governments have issued warnings to residents in flood-prone areas, particularly those living along riverbanks, to temporarily relocate or take precautions ahead of the planned release of water from the Onya Dam. The release, managed by the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority, is part of an annual effort to manage dam levels during the rainy season. Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tokunbo Wahab said the federal government has begun dredging rivers along the dam corridor to prevent devastating floods such as the one that occurred in Maiduguri. Now, similarly, the Taraba State government has issued a directive urging residents along the River Benue Valley to relocate immediately to avoid potential flooding. This comes after a warning from the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency and the announcement by the Lagdo Dam Authority in Cameroon. According to the state's Commissioner for Information, Zainab Usman Jalingo, the dam managers have begun releasing water at a rate of 100 cubic meters per second, about 8.64 million cubic tons meter per ton per day since September 17, 2024. And now in East Africa, a medical source told reporters on Friday that 48 people have been killed in 2 days of raids by Sudanese paramilitaries on the Darfur city of El Fasher, following international calls for an end to the nation's suffering. According to a medical source at Al Fasher Teaching Hospital, as paramilitary forces and the regular army continue to battle for control of North Darfur's capital, artillery fire from the Rapid Support Forces killed 30 people and wounded many others on Friday alone. And now we head to South Africa, where 17 people were killed in a devastating mass shooting in Eastern Cape, with 3 others critically injured. The incident occurred on Friday night in Nyathi village, Ngobozana, Lusikiki, where victims believed to be relatives and neighbors were shot dead in a homestead. 13 victims, including 12 women and 1 man, were found in one house, while 4 more were discovered in another homestead. In total, 15 women and 2 men lost their lives. It is alleged that the victims were preparing for a traditional ritual scheduled for Saturday to mark the end of mourning for a mother and daughter murdered a year ago. The 3 injured survivors are currently fighting for their lives in the hospital. And that's all for this hour. Do join us again when we bring you another update at the 9 o'clock hour. Well, do stay tuned. This is Breakfast Extra, and we'll bring you more very interesting conversations in a bit.
Let's talk unemployment. It's a persistent issue affecting millions of young professionals across the country. And with the rise of digital economies and an increasingly competitive job market, many are struggling to navigate their career paths. But how can young professionals successfully position themselves in this challenging environment? That is the question.
Straight to it. To help us explore that topic, we're joined by Ofan Emmanuel, a digital communications and marketing manager and also mentor who specializes in guiding young professionals toward career development and leadership. Ofan, you are welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited
to have you. Excited to have you. I mean, let's get started, right? And let's start by addressing the unemployment crisis head on. From your perspective, what are the main factors that you think is contributing to the high unemployment rates that we're seeing, especially among young professionals?
So one challenge that I would say off the top of my head is the challenge of universities or corporate institutions not able to build talents, young people, undergraduates, to the point where their skills meet up or align with the needs of the markets. So you have people leaving school, thousands of people leaving school every year, but then they don't have the skills that they need to thrive in the job markets already, waiting to then go into the job market. So that's one challenge.
Right. And what's the cause of that when you see? Is it the case of not having the right resources at the education level? Is it the curriculum, or is it just they thinking as long as you have your BSc, you're able to get a job?
So there's the issue of infrastructure and the curriculum, the problems within the school that don't accommodate that. But then I like to take responsibility, and so I'm always about you. So yes, you have graduated and the school didn't give you tools, but then you have to do the work by yourself. You have to put yourself in a place where you are consistently developing your skills to meet the next phase of your life. So I always talk about career planning. You need to plan your career from undergraduate days, not when you leave and you're ready for the job market. When you leave, maybe too late, maybe, but then you need to start from when you are learning the ABC in school. You need to start thinking, what is the next phase of my life going to look like? What skills do I need to thrive? If I'm going to be in digital communications, for instance, who is doing that? What are they doing? What skills do they have? What is their day-to-day? What can I learn to make me employable when I leave here?
So is our entire school system obsolete then? Because you speak about these skills, and these skills are ever evolving in themselves. If our institutions are set in stone, I read botany, by the way, I can tell you how chromosomes split and how evolution happens, but I do not think that for the love of me I've ever exercised that knowledge. So you can tell that times are always changing.
Ever-changing times.
What skills do these institutions, and I'm taking this from your first remark, do they need to incorporate into the learning procedure for undergraduates? Specifically, what skills?
So that question is very important for me because, again, we can't create a whole faculty or department and say, oh, employability departments. But then incorporating some skills, some subjects that teach people basic skills, work ethic, and how to thrive. So take, for instance, how many graduates from universities right now can actually send a proper email? So imagine that they have that in some course, in some, they use it already in school. All of these things that you need in the job market, you already know how to do them. How to apply for jobs. Many people don't even know how to apply for jobs. Some people think that when they finish school, they are just going to get an opportunity somehow because they are smart. but they don't know that these things are things that you need to cultivate. And the school system, there has to be some way to incorporate something to teach these people about the job market and how to thrive in it. Because then again, if you keep saying the school is obsolete, it's not, it's like we're applauding them for that. We need to advocate for schools, institutions, infrastructure around these kinds of things, so that when you get into school, even if you didn't know, the school is able to say, oh, you can take this course, or you can go for career counseling. And I know that we used to have career counseling, but some of those things don't work.
Well, I mean,
It doesn't work.
So in schools, they're supposed to have guidance and counselors who are supposed to also act as your career counselors and all of that. But unfortunately with that, like Mazino said, and as you've said, they're slowly beginning to lose their functionality. But we need to go on a short break. You're watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central TV, and we're talking about unemployment and navigating the labor market, especially for young graduates. We're going on a short break. When we come back, there's plenty more. Stay here.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying. We're still navigating the job market as we talk unemployment here today with Ofofonanon Emmanuel, who is our expert here with us in the studio. You're welcome once again. And yes, I used the full name because I love it. Thank you very much.
We did a little bit of icebreakers over here in the background, by the way.
You were asking her very interesting.
Yes, I was. And this time it's about, the job seekers. We've talked about the education sector and, them being rightfully equipped to be able to navigate and even get a shoe in to the door. But let's talk about the gaps that you see between what job seekers expect and what the current labor market wants.
Tough. So, right now, first things first, the labor market need people who are not just smart, because there's smart people everywhere. People who are ready to do the work and do it passionately.
Gen Zs, can you hear?
Do the work and do it passionately. So let me talk about that for a bit. You cannot do something passionately if you don't already like it. So that takes us back to the very essence of planning your career. You have to plan your career around things that come naturally to you, things that you're already interested in, things that you know that if they don't pay you, you'll be happy to do it. Because, it comes naturally to you.
Yeah, like this job.
Yes, like this job. Great. And I wanted, that I have always loved media, communications, marketing.
This is on your profile. There's quite a number of media. I'm like, I beg, stay one place. Stop shifting lanes.
So these things come naturally to me, and I love it. So it means that no matter the stress, of course, the labor market is tough.
Right.
Corporate is tough everywhere. Right. But then when you are in a tough spot, because you have the skills, you are interested in it, and you love it, you'll be able to thrive.
So the triad.
Yes.
You must have the skills, you must love it.
You mentioned something very important to this conversation, and that's the generational differences.
Right.
We grew up under a climb that was very different from what the Gen Zs are growing up, and then there's another one under them. What's the next generation? I can't remember.
Gen Alpha. That's your kid. You don't know the generation.
They're going to have a totally different climb. Now, with these different generations, you expect to develop your career or develop whatever interests you have with the climb that you find yourself in. What challenges would the Gen Zs have in this overly structured situation that we have, that we are used to as millennials? I'm taking it you're a millennial as well.
I am.
Hallelujah.
I love this conversation, and because I have spoken to and worked with a lot of Gen Zs, I see that maybe it's not the generation issue, maybe it's values. Because I see that many Gen Zs would want to skip the corporate thing, not do any of that, leave work, come to work anytime. But there's still many out there that understand the importance of work, that have work ethic, that understand values, that know that respect is important, and respect for other people's time is important, that know that you can object to somebody's opinion without being disrespectful, that know that you can point certain things out to even your seniors without coming off rude.
I hope they cut the sub there, Gen Zs. Go on.
So there's always that, I would see Gen Zs who have that attitude, and then they blame it on the generation.
Or mental health.
Yes, or mental health, because there's that, and it's very important. However, you can always communicate and work properly with people with respect. You can always do that.
You are a pro at personal branding, because I've seen, again, in prepping, I watched and I observed, and what you were very particular about is personal branding. And so this takes me to my next question about entering into a competitive market that we've now found ourselves in present day, in the global job market. What are some strategies do you think young graduates should be doing to get into the workforce? Should it be personal branding? What platforms do you think they should be using, like LinkedIn, Twitter? I don't know anything on the social media.
So when we talk about personal branding, there's the personal, first of all. It has to be you, not you on LinkedIn, not you on Instagram saying the amazing things that you can do, but you for the essence of who you are. So you have to be before you put yourself in those platforms. So if you have the skill, if you are confident, if you are employable, then you can go out and say that you are. Because there's a lot of people who are experts at posting and saying things that they are not. Because it's easy to.
A charlatan.
So personal branding has to be personal. If behind closed doors, and if these cameras are not there, who are you? Are you that person? And do you have the skill? Do you have, because I can go out there and say, oh, I am this, I have done that, and nobody cares to verify just because you have said. Which is important to be, because again, when you get employed because of personal branding, you have put yourself out there, then the personal comes in. Then your boss can't even, they don't understand. Because they hire this person because of this person talks a lot, this person posts a lot, this person looks good online.
This is a situation of what you ordered versus what you got.
Exactly.
There we go. That's a good one.
So now it's time to do the work.
Right.
I saw one joke, one meme where the person said, oh, when I put that, I can speak French on my CV. And now it's time to speak the French.
Oh, there was one that I love, a Ugandan skit. I have to tell the story.
She has to tell the story,
applied
guys.
for being a pilot. Okay, and then he gets to the tarmac, and he was like, "Okay, you ready? Go check the plane and all the things." And he goes there. He looks under the plane. He looks, he's like turning around. Finally, they get in the plane, and they're flying the plane. And his co-pilot is asking him all this rudiments and everything, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I am not qualified for this job." Mid-air, and he opens the door and flies out the plane. I am not joking.
And that paints a very realistic picture of what people, what the situation is when it comes to getting a job in Nigeria. However, leadership, let's go to the very extreme now. Leadership is a very important stamp to one's career. As a coach yourself, and as you build people to develop their careers and their paths, I'd like to know exactly what the individuals can look out for. And very curiously, what's a Gen Z leader going to look like? And I mean a Gen Z CEO, because we're expecting to see more of these as time progresses. What are they going to look? What's that era going to look like in a corporate sense?
I want to say something. I can't say it. I'm sorry.
I
cannot say it.
for you to say
I
it.
cannot say it. Isn't that the CEO of Patricia? Moving on quickly.
Okay.
Don't let it drop.
Great.
Don't let it drop, because I feel this one's going to go. So, what's it going to be like?
So before I jump in there, I was going to finish that question, the previous question.
Please.
Yeah.
Because there's the personal, and then you, the essence and the core of who you are. And then there's the platforms. Because you can be so great, but if you don't tell us that you're great, we never know.
Right.
You may have done all these amazing things. You may have raised seed funding of $3 million. Nobody knows that until you say you have. Which is why it's important that if you really have it, then you should say it. Because people who don't have it are saying it.
Yeah.
So you should really put yourself in those platforms. So for job seekers, people who are looking for employment, then LinkedIn is the place. And then a supporting platform like maybe your portfolio, maybe media, maybe Instagram if you are in media generally. So it's important to put yourself in those places and consistently say who the heaven you are. You need to say it so that when people see it, they see it and they believe you. When they call you into important rooms, you can defend what the heaven you said.
Nice.
Oh, and now on
So the leadership. So what that would look like, because I'm a zillennial, I'm a zillennial.
Yeah, now stretching your leg. That's why you're claiming millennial with your full
I'm
chest.
a millennial.
It's okay to associate.
But I'm like 3-4 years away
from the Gen
Typical
Zs, I
millennials,
guess.
Gen Z.
Yeah, so it means that I understand, and I have friends who are Gen Zs, smart friends, by the way.
I adore Gen Zs. I won't
I
pretend.
have a Gen
like
Z
them.
friend who is, I won't call her name, but she knows I'm talking about her. She is a CEO. She runs a marketing agency, and she's amazing at her job. So she understands the importance of balance, and she, of course, she has Gen Zs on her team also. But work ethic is important to her, and she knows that in leading companies, in leading people, you need to put those values in place, those core values, spell it out to the people you're working with. And that's what it looks like if you have work ethic. Your generation is not going to excuse you from doing the proper thing. So I've seen Gen Zs who are CEOs, who are business leaders, who are doing what they should do in order to get revenue and to get the accolade that they deserve.
So they're making it on a global standard because they're taking what obtains in Western in a Western sense and applying it here. But how does that affect culture here in Nigeria? We had an instance from early this morning when Judith had her prologue and she was telling about the fact that the governor-elect of Edo State had to go kneeling down in front of the president to shake him, and she thought that that was, you know, out of place when you look at it in the setting. Now, when you put culture and our current job seekers or CEOs that we're looking forward to having in the future, how does that play?
Do they have to be subservient?
Nah,
Is subservience
don't do that.
yeah, thank you for that word.
Don't do
is
that.
it particularly needed? Or we can do without it, let's just face business?
You need to be confident, not subservient.
Nigerian workplace.
Again, so if you even find yourself in a place where they need you to shut up, please close the door, leave. Because
In this competitive job market where there are no jobs.
Exactly.
For me, I don't like this, you know.
Let's go back to personal branding.
Okay.
Let's go back to personal brand because it's important. If you know that you can do the work and you know that you are putting yourself in the places you're supposed to put yourself in, yes, you may be out of job for a while, but you will get another one. Because, again, there are a lot of talk. There's a lot of people doing plenty talks, but then people are looking for people who can actually do the work. So if you find yourself in a place where they are always shutting you up, you have important ideas, important suggestions and contributions, and they always shut you up because they say, oh, I am like this. I found myself in those kinds of situations where they need me to shut up because I'm younger. So you don't... So you don't see, you need to be confident in your abilities and in who you are, so that when somebody says shut up and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot really shut up like that.
It's gonna go home.
I cannot really shut up like that. This is what I want to say, and you say that respectfully, emphasis on respectfully. You realize that their shut up is from a place of intimidation. They're intimidated by your confidence. So again, be confident, know that you have a backing, and your backing is your personal brand. So I don't talk about jobs, you know, getting the job. I talk about you. Your ability to get the job, not getting the job. Because again, you can get the job today and they say, we don't have money to pay you, come and be going. So that can happen. Or you can say, oh, I'm done with these people. But there's that confidence in knowing that you can do the job and you can look for the job and you would get it. It might take time, but you would get it. So don't put yourself in a place where your mental health is threatened. You can't talk. You are always crying. You are always fidgeting. You're panicking.
Right.
No, don't do that.
Oh, no. I'm watching this, right, and I've passed out of, you know, NYC, and I'm sitting down at home and watching this, and I'm like, yeah, I have the degree. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to be a marketing exec like yourself in a fintech, you know, and work for the, you know, for maybe top 500 or some tech company in Sweden or something. What are the strategies do I need, like practical strategies that I can adopt to get a job like this?
Number one, personal branding. Start from the personal before you go to the branding. So personal branding, it has to be personal. You need to know the work, know what you're doing. And you don't have experience. Let's imagine that you don't have experience and you're watching this.
Yeah.
Like I always say, experience is everywhere. Go and get it. How can you get experience? let's use marketing, for instance. There are a lot of marketing courses out there. Lots of people who are looking for marketing interns. Lots of people who are looking for volunteers to help them do their work, help them build their businesses. There is experience. Now you know one collect experience because maybe you're looking for some big money.
There's no money now for transport.
That's the thing. So there's always, you need to give yourself experience and know how much price you're willing to pay to gain experience. That's why you don't wait till you finish school.
Okay.
That's why you start from school. That's why you say, oh, this is my career plan. I want to be this by so time. And so in order for me to gather that 4 years experience that they're asking for, I am going to start volunteering for an NGO that needs a social media marketer, for somebody who's just starting a business that needs a graphic designer. I am going to start from there.
Positioning yourself already from while you're already still in school.
So
I like that you raised that. I like that you raised that. Experience versus academic versus qualification. Now I'm about to ask a very, very critical question here. Since the experience far outweighs my degree, then what use is getting the degree? Ask that now. Hang on now. The truth is, when you look at the landscape, people, CEOs who are Gen Z, are making it not because of the degree that they earned in school, but because of their ability to identify a problem and provide a solution. That's why they're CEOs. They don't want to work for anybody. So should we be advising youngins to actually go look for work or look for a job? And I mean the difference being work for someone as school plants you. You have to get a degree, then you have to search for a job and work under a company or someone. However, if you decide to say, I want to fix shoes, and I'll do it in corporate fashion, you become your own CEO. So where does your academic degree come in?
So I love this question.
Thank you very much.
So
I thought about it all by
philosophy.
myself.
Of course.
Weirdo.
I studied philosophy in school, but something I always did in school, I used to publish for a magazine in school. So I had always written. I had always held on to the mic if there was an event. So I had always put myself in those places, emphasis on, because it came naturally to me. Because I already liked doing it. I can do it. So when somebody says, who is that girl that can write? Please call her for me. There's something that I have to do. Now, I was in school to study philosophy, even though I wanted to study law. So I did philosophy just because. The institutions we have out here, you can be so smart and it's like you want to work in tech and the institution is Paystack, for instance. You want to work in Paystack.
You pay.
You want to work in Paystack and you don't have a basic degree. That's the entry-level degree, entry-level certification or certificate you need to at least say, okay, because again, you're going further in life. There are people who are asking for your NYSC. So you need to at least, if not for anything, get the basic entry
Well, that's
minimum.
time spent. That's time I could have spent building an empire.
No, but that also means that to go against the grain of society, because I mean, when you came in as well, and same as I came in, I'm sure when you came in, they'd ask for your university degree and your secondary school degree.
Sorry,
and all of that.
let me answer her. You're no longer here. But you see, the funny thing is, I started doing the media even before getting a degree.
Of course.
And for most of us, that's how we started doing media. We started from being undergraduates.
Yeah.
We graduated and never had to present our degrees to our employers because we were already working. And from then on, every other employer has hired us based on our ability, not based on... but here, they hired us based on the experience and everything else. You know?
Yeah, very important. So people want to know that at least you can read and write. Because that's what you will need in the workforce. You can read and write. And what's the best way to validate that? That you went to school, you had a project, and you wrote the project by yourself. You presented it to the panel of judges, what they call them. That's one validation of your ability to read and write.
Did it have to take 4 years for me to be able to present and write that?
Mazino,
I could be a natural, is my point.
Mazino, let me make a case.
And I was a natural.
Let me make a case for the university and for the 4 years and also for all the other schools and all the other processes that one has to go through to become a rounded individual for our society. Now, with the university, there are many things that we're supposed to be doing as well, but unfortunately, our system doesn't allow for it. So in a perfect world, if you are in a university and you have 4 years to learn whatever field, you are supposed to have taken a gap year before that university. That gap year should have been that time for you to figure out what you want to learn. In my case, I had a gap year, and I was lucky enough and informed enough to know that I wanted to go
What
into
did you study again?
As education. I wanted to go
Love
into,
it.
I wanted to do law, but then I couldn't afford to do that. Instead, I ended up with education, English language, and I majored in child psychology and literature, African literature, and I do that now. And so that is what it's supposed to be. And whilst we were in school, I started to volunteer at Cross River State Broadcasting Corporation. I worked at Paradise Radio and also CRBC Television. And so I met the people that I met along the way. That is what it's supposed to be. So whilst you are in school, you are going to those classes and you are enacting them in real life. Hence your 1 year gap within the school curricula where you go for your industrial training, also known as internship. You know, you go there and you go to go and learn that. So, but unfortunately, our system has failed that, hence why you went to learn botany, and hence why I couldn't...
I wanted to be a doctor, by the way, just so everybody knows.
There you go. There you go. So those things, so
Well,
that's
the
what
jam
it is.
happened.
So that's what jam happened, and that's what it is. So and so that's so the system itself was designed for that, but unfortunately it has now been flawed over time and years of
We
it
should
being
ask
flawed.
you,
And
so
yeah.
is the system flawed?
I would say yes, a capital yes, because why are we churning out thousands of graduates and there's no infrastructure, and now we have to think about it all by ourselves? When we grew up hearing that when you just finish like this, just grade first class, NMPC will be waiting for you, or just, you know, we heard all of these things growing up, but then in realizing that this is how the society is, you have to think about yourself and for yourself. So yes, it is flawed, but it's our job to make it better right now.
Yes.
For ourselves, you know, while we hope that the system will change or be better.
One final question from me is the focus for these job seekers. Everybody wants a corporate or at least something that's sort of like a blue-collar job. Nigeria is a very big arable country, and I use the word arable intentionally because as a botanist, I understand that there's plenty of work when it comes to the agriculture sector. Why aren't people tuning in on this, young ones who are job seekers tuning in on this and taking advantage of that availability? Why must I work for a financial institution or start my own business and it has to have that corporate sense? Who's deceiving me?
So again, newsflash, you don't have to. Again, tap into the core of who you are. What do you want to do? You need to decide and not say, oh my, I don't know. You choose one, or you look at all the things that you can do, all the things that you're already naturally good at, and then pick, okay, this is the one that is most viable in the markets. This is the one that will bring the more money, and decide. If it's agriculture, you know how to plant. I have a friend, she's the CEO of Agrodemi, and what she does is help other farmers get information that they need to do well in their farms. She started from planting. She started from doing the actual work in the farm, and she's doing very well traveling around the world right now just because she was able to start from where she started. So again, what do you love to do? You need to know that your life can literally change from one thing that you love to do. You can literally move that from 0 to 100, but you need to decide what you want to do. It might not be something that you like to do, but something that you have strengths in. You may not like speaking or talking, but you have strengths in it. Is it possible that you cultivate that enough to like to want to do it so that you can earn money? So nobody's saying you need to wear a tie and work in a financial institution. We're saying tap into who you are and cultivate it to the point where you can thrive in a career that concerns that path.
As we wrap up the show today, one advice, one tool, one skill, one strategy that you think is crucial and pivotal in the job market?
Number one, can I say two?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Number one, intentionality. You have to think 3 steps ahead. Because, so you're in school year 1, you need to think like somebody that's leaving school tomorrow because there are things to be done. You don't always have youth, you don't always have time. So you need to think, you need to be intentional. What is the plan? And again, trying to remember a scripture, but you will do your work and God will do his part. So what is your part? Intentionality. This is what I want to do. And this is what I will start doing. I will start gaining the experience needed to thrive there. And yes, God will bring opportunities. And I'm ready for those opportunities when they come. And then finally, learn the art or the skill of looking for opportunities. You need to learn how to look for opportunities, because if you're not looking, if you're not even telling, the people who are ashamed of telling others that they're looking for a job, they're ashamed. They're like, oh my God, I don't want them to think I'm struggling. But do you or do you not? Because every time you don't intentionally look for, put yourself in those places where you're telling people, oh, I need this opportunity. I am here, sitting here having this conversation with us because I told somebody, oh, I need this opportunity. So if you don't intentionally, there's somebody who can have $1 million opportunity for you, but they don't know that you need it. And the person is in your corner. So you need to be intentional. You also need to learn the art of looking for opportunities.
Intentionality and the act of looking for opportunity. Ofonono here, Ofonono Emmanuel. She is our guest today. She's a digital marketing and digital communication expert, as well as a mentor when it comes to job seekers and just people who are looking to get into the space. She's been helping us navigate and give us insight on the job market and building a successful career. Once again, Ofonono, many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely enjoyed this, and I must commend your crystal mind and your ability to stick and finish the questions asked. Very beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Well, that's all we can take at this time. But stick around. Coming up next will be sports, and afterwards there is the headline news. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Extra. Time to take you to the world of sports. Nigeria's junior female Yellow Greens, they will again battle test-playing nation Zimbabwe for a place in next year's ICC Under-19 Women's World Cup in Malaysia, as both teams meet in the final of the African Division 1 qualifiers in Kigali, Rwanda on Sunday. The junior female Yellow Greens recorded a solid 62 runs, a win over Ike rivals Rwanda in one of the semi-final matches of the tournament on Saturday to set up a final clash against Zimbabwe, who beat Uganda by 75 runs in the second semi-final game. A win for the junior Yellow Greens over Zimbabwe will confirm Nigeria's second Cricket World Cup appearance at any level. So we'll be rooting for the junior female Yellow Greens as they go up against Zimbabwe today. Moving away from that to the world of football, Sunshine Stars are shining, and Nasarawa United, they also continued the tradition of away wins in the 2024-2025 season of the Nigeria Premier Football League, when they pulled off an impressive road wins respectively in Akwa United and Lagos State. Anas Yusuf, his goal in the 45th minute, his 5th this term, and Kabiru Balogun's 65th minute strike secured Nasarawa a 2-1 win over Ikorodu City at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos. Thank God Chilaka scored either side for Nasarawa goals to become Ikorodu's first scorer in the maiden campaign. The win votes Nasarawa United 6 places into 6th place on 5 points in the table after 4 rounds of games, while Ikorodu City, they are second from bottom. In the second match for matchday 4 encounter for Saturday, Sunshine Stars, they scorched Akwa United 2-1 in Uyo to jump to 4 places into second position on 7 points in the Nigeria Premier Football League. We're hoping that they can keep that momentum over there in the current standings, as you see on your screen right now. Remo Stars are still leading the 4 there, with Sunshine Stars sitting at second position. Rivers United, yes, they are sitting at 3rd position there. Niger Tornadoes at 4th, Amber 5th position, Nasarawa United at 6th, El Kanemi Warriors 7, 8, Kano Pillars, Rangers, the defending champions, they are sitting on the 9th position. Plateau United there at 10, making the top 10 in the standing for the Nigeria Premier Football League. Today would be the battle between Ijabol and Pep Ball, talking about Remo and Rangers having to face up today in the Sunday fixture for the Nigeria Premier Football League. So we cannot wait to see what will happen at the top of the table, where Remo Stars are sitting with #1 position. Let's move away from that. Tell you that Africa's best player for 2023, Victor Osimhen, he's scored his first goal for Galatasaray, and he did it in a very sweet style. netting a stunning first-half brace in the Turkish Super League clash against Kasımpaşa on Saturday. Osimhen broke the deadlock in the 20th minute with a clinical finish. I say it again, a clinical finish. And 8 minutes later, he doubled Galatasaray's lead with an exquisite strike. Moro Icardi joined the goal-scoring fray, adding a third for the hosts in the 34th minute. Of course, though the visitors pulled one back afterward, Galatasaray's dominance remained evident. Now, despite appearing injured, Osimhen persevered and also finished the first half alongside his teammate, having initially signaled that he wanted to be substituted. This impressive display marks Victor Osimhen's first goal for Galatasaray, building on his 3 assists since joining from Napoli. So this guy is on a high. We cannot wait to see him go gaga over there in the Turkish Superliga. Let's wrap up sport update this time to tell you that the Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, has confirmed the 12th stadium in the United States that will host the matches at the new FIFA Club World Cup for 2025. When 32 best clubs in the world will play for the only official title of FIFA Club World Cup champions. The tournament kicks off on Sunday, 15th of June 2025, with all road leading to the MetLife Stadium in New York, New Jersey on Sunday, the 13th of July 2025, where FIFA Club World Cup, the final, will be played just over a year before the venue stages the FIFA Cup for 2026 final. Now, this is a choked calendar indeed. After the FIFA Club World Cup, we will have the World Cup proper that will be hosted by United States, Mexico, and Canada. You want to talk about football? You would get football this season. There you have it. Sport update at this time. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Back to, of course, Maxino and Judith.
Good morning and welcome once again. Let's do lines for 10 o'clock. My name is Mazino Appeal. Let's begin with health matters, where 13 persons have been confirmed dead following a cholera outbreak in Ebonyi and easy local government areas of Ebonyi State. 10 persons were confirmed dead from the disease a few days back. Briefing newsmen in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi State Commissioner for Health, Moses Ekuma, said 3 more deaths have been recorded and about 69 cases reported. Akuma said that others affected are responding to treatment at the different treatment centers activated within the communities affected in Ebonyi and Izzi local government areas. In the meantime, the Lagos and Ogun state governments have issued warnings to residents in flood-prone areas, particularly those living along riverbanks, to temporarily relocate or take precautions ahead of the planned release of water from the Onya Dam. The release, managed by the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority, is part of an annual effort to manage dam levels during the rainy season. Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tokunbo Wahab said the federal government has begun dredging rivers along the dam corridor to prevent devastating floods such as the one that occurred in Maiduguri. Now, similarly, the Taraba state government has issued a directive urging residents along the River Benue Valley to relocate immediately to avoid potential flooding. This comes after a warning from the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency and the announcement by the Lagdo Dam Authority in Cameroon. According to the state's Commissioner for Information, Zainab Usman Jalingo, the dam managers have begun releasing water at a rate of 100 cubic meters per second, about 8.64 million cubic meters per day since September 17, 2024. And let's tell you that President Bola Tinubu has called on development nations, or rather developed nations, to honor their commitment of mobilizing $100 billion annually for climate finance. Speaking at the 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York, Tinubu's message, delivered by Environment Minister Malam Balarabe Abbas Lawal, emphasized that these funds are not just financial obligations, but moral imperatives for supporting climate adaptation and mitigation in developing nations. Tinubu stressed that effective climate action requires adequate financing, which is critical for building climate-resilient infrastructure, transitioning to sustainable energy, and protecting valuable communities from climate change impacts. The federal government has declared Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, a public holiday to commemorate Nigeria's 64th Independence Day. This announcement was made by the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, in a statement issued by the ministry's Permanent Secretary, Dr. Magdalene Ajani. Tunji-Ojo extended his congratulations to Nigerians, both at home and abroad, praising their resilience and hard work. He emphasized that their sacrifice will not be in vain. While wishing the nation a happy Independence Day, the minister urged all Nigerians to remain steadfast to their commitment to nation building. Now to election matters. Low voters turnout marred Saturday's local government election conducted in the 326 political wards and 5,891 polling units across 21 local government areas of Anambra State. News Central correspondent Austin Azu, who monitored the exercise, reports that the poll is the first in 10 years to elect chairmen and councillors at the grassroots of governance in the state. His report.
As early as 8 a.m. on Saturday, Onitsha, the economic nerve center of Anambra State, showed no signs of movement restriction in relation to the local government election, as activities were as busy as any other day. At about 9:30 a.m., Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission's presiding officer and other officials were at Ward 001, Unit 006, in Agwata local government area. There were no intended voters on ground until this man rang the school bell to invite the villagers to the polling units before most of them started coming to perform their civic duty. Accreditation was manual, as the clerk poll confirmed the names of eligible voters on the voters register book, cross-checked it with voters card before issuing ballot papers to voters.
Everything has been going smoothly and well. I think we commend our ANSEC for a well-organized electoral process.
I mean, the way to summarize, things are very seamless, very smooth. It took me less than 1 minute to vote, and that's what has been happening.
I have voted my own, and the voting is going smoothly. People are turning out, they are coming out, and I feel that everything will move quietly.
Some voters shared their thoughts on the exercise.
We have a low turnout today for the local government and councillorship election, but people is still coming gradually, one, but the election was going fine. There is no problem.
There is not much people coming yet to come and vote.
No, I'm not impressed, but at least we are trying. People are not coming out. Even we went there, be telling them to come and vote. They say they don't know what is going on, but at least we appreciate the little people that come out and vote.
Meanwhile, Governor Charles Soludo, who voted at Ward 001, Unit 002 in Agwata Council area, said the exercise was peaceful across the local government areas of the state.
Getting an opinion poll or a mock election towards what happens next year. So for our administration, we're not taking it very lightly. And we've said it to ANSEC and to all Anambra people that this will be one huge example of a local government election that is conducted very transparently, creditably, and with all the, you can see people here lined up, everybody voting peacefully.
At the end of the voting exercise, the results from each of the polling units across the state will be announced by the returning officers and posted on the wall. Thereafter, official results from each of the local governments will be announced by the ANSEC chairman at the corporate head office of the Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission in Awka. In Awka for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
And that's all the headlines for this hour. Do stay tuned. We have more inside of Breakfast Extra. We'll be back after this break. And you're welcome to our final big story for today. Let's take a closer look at a very shocking story out of Delta State. The police have uncovered and arrested 123 internet fraudsters in Ekpa Uwe local government area and who were part of a syndicate known as Hustlers Kingdom. Now, these fraudsters lured unsuspecting teenagers into their dangerous web, forcing them into a life of crime. But how deep does this issue go, and what can be done to stop it?
And that's a question we hope to answer with our show this morning. And so to help us break down the story, we have SP Bright Edafe. He is the Public Relations Officer of the Delta State Police Command, who has been at the forefront of this investigation. And he will provide us with exclusive details on how the syndicate operated, the arrest of these suspects, and the steps law enforcement is taking to combat internet fraud. Welcome to the program, SP Edafe. It's good to have you join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
SP Edafe, this case has shocked many people across the country, especially given the number of suspects involved and the method that they used. Can you walk us through the details of the investigation? How were the fraudsters luring these young people into what they called Hustlers Kingdom?
Well, apart from their number and their modus operandi, another shocking part of it is that about 45% of these youths are under the age of 20, 17, 18, 19. And that was what was really shocking to me when I got to a bank that morning to parade them. What they do is they have like a network where they flaunt ill-gotten wealth of social media, try to influence their peer group and convince them that they have the age where they can be making good money for themselves. Like the one from Ibadan was looking for 150,000 naira to go to Egypt, Cairo, and met one of his friends whom he told, please, can you loan me 150,000? And the guy said, you are a big boy now. People will never even reach you. They're already making it. Come to Warrior, I will show you how to make money. And 3-4, that was the same scenario that they gave. So what we discovered is that they deceive them and let them know that they can do one or two things to make money. And at times, they don't even come straight to tell them that they're into the business of internet fraud. They'll tell them they want to teach them how to trade crypto and Forex. But when they get there, one thing is to commit crime willingly. Another thing is to be coerced into committing crime. Once they get there, the moment they get inside the apartment, that is the end of it. They are not even allowed to see sunlight. They seize their phones from them. And one of them, in his story to us, he said they asked the three of them to go into the beauty room and have their bath. When they came out, their phones had already been seized. And that was it. And they told them, once you are here, no more going back. You cannot reach out to your family, you cannot reach out to your siblings, and you can't live here until you have successfully picked a certain amount of money. The guy from Ibadan said he was given a task of $10,000. So that's what happened, and I'm glad that we were able to uncover their hideout and rescued some of them and charged some of them to court, because the ones that came from Kaduna, if you hear their story, it's really pathetic. It was one of them who used the laptop given to him to work to quickly message the mom, who is also on Facebook, telling the mom where he was at that time and begging that they should come and rescue him. So that is what actually transpired, and that is how they go about it.
SP Edafe, very interesting story here, and very interesting that people actually come from outside of Delta State into Delta State. Like you said, some of them actually go into it, the others are coerced. So regarding the people who have been identified as being coerced into this endeavor, how are they going to be tried? What's going to happen to them? What's their fate going to be? Would they be tried as hardened criminals, like perhaps maybe the leaders of this gang, or would they have certain considerations extended to them, noting that they were coerced? And how have you been able to identify those who are coerced versus those who actually went into it willingly?
Okay, coerced or not, there's no justification for crime. That's a fact. Particularly when the person is of the age where it can be prosecuted, which are made to understand above 7 years. Above 7 years, there is intent. So it is left for the courts to decide if they can temper justice with mercy. Because if we do it at our own end, definitely there will be backlash. You start hearing allegations of, oh, they have collected money and that. So we have not even, we have already arraigned all of them, and prosecution is ongoing as we speak. At that very day where the command paraded them, we did it in the morning so that they could be charged to court on that same day. So we charged all of them to court.
Okay, now let's talk about location. You mentioned this happened in Delta State, in Warri particularly, where, like you noted from earlier, there is a certain group of people who can flaunt these ill-gotten wealth, I mean, in the face of other people without recourse. However, Delta State, Warri in particular, Asaba, then there's Benin in Edo State. These are places that people have noted have these high numbers of people who engage in internet fraud. What implications does this have on the security agencies in these locations?
Well, we will continue to do our own job. The fact is that we cannot undermine their negative influence in the society. Because we have cases where when their ill-gotten wealth stops coming, they tend to divert into the business of kidnapping, armed robbery, and at times money-making ritual. So we are not unaware of this fact, and we are alive to it. And that is why we took it upon ourselves that it is not just enough to arrest them. We should also let the world and also let their colleagues out there to know that we are not playing. That once we get them, we are going to ensure that justice is served. And the CP has already directed that their hideouts should be fished out and raided. It may interest you to know that since that Wednesday where I went to Ekpa to parade there, more than 10 parents have come to this office to meet me saying that they have been looking for their children between the age of 16 and 20. More than 10. Just the day before yesterday, I got a call from Abuja asking that I should please cross-check the names to have if their names are there. 2 of their sons are nowhere to be found. There's another one who chatted me and said the brother said after about 3 months, the brother just messaged him and said he's in Ghana to learn painting. I told him he's not painting, it's HK. So we are not unaware of this fact, and we are training them, and we ensure that they are completely fished out, identified, and charged to court, so that we will reduce this menace that they are causing, not just into Delta, not just in the state, in the nation. Because I can tell you for a fact that those persons paraded on that day, not up to 20% are from Delta. They are either from the west or from the north. So it is not just a Delta State problem. I feel we should address this as a national problem. I've always said it that parents should speak up. Government should speak up. I agree that we are doing our part. But the moment our youth know that this is not going to be tolerated, they will relax and sit back and ensure that they do the right thing. But we are living in a society where we tend to celebrate these people. Go on social media and see comments. You will wonder what is wrong with us as a people. Where people encourage fraud, people encourage criminality, people keep telling you, oh, why have you not arrested kidnappers? Why have you not arrested armed robbers? Why have you not arrested some people say politicians? But in reality, does that change the fact that what these guys are doing is a crime that is bringing disrepute to the integrity of this nation? So like I said, the CP has given marching orders to DPOs to ensure that they identify all hideouts of all criminals and also these internet fraudsters. This guy you see, he's one of their leaders who claimed, I don't know the confidence he has, though, claiming that he's teaching them Forex, teaching them crypto. To buttress my point, that is how they usually lure them. He only proved me right by saying he's teaching them crypto and Forex. But you had confessions from some of the boys. You had one who said they beat him up to the extent that he had to excrete on his own body, urinate on his body, and was bleeding. What kind of crime is this? Where you don't only tell them to come and commit crime, you force them into committing the crime. Now, one key issue is this. They say when leaf and soap are together, after some time, the leaf will start seeing itself as a soap. When these guys have been with them for so long, they get used to the system and accept it as a norm. And that is why I'm very glad that we were able to fish them out time and raided all of them.
Now, SP Edafe, I want to ask you, earlier on you said that the syndicate, which is the Hustlers Kingdom, that they engaged in other activities. Would you mind explaining to us what those activities are, what those day-to-day activities were in your course of investigation?
Okay, what I meant was that when we have paraded some suspects in the past who confessed that they were into Yahoo. I don't like using the word Yahoo. They were into the business of internet fraud. And at a time when they stop getting what they are used to, they divert into the business of kidnapping. And that is what makes this Yahoo trend more dangerous. Because we that are, some of us that are celebrating them now, they may come back to haunt us when they stop getting this ill-gotten offense to them easy way of making money. However, what they are doing is clearly defined as internet fraud. It's so clear, but they claim that they are into the business of Forex and crypto, which is not true. Secondly, like I said, why keep people of the age of 17, 18, 19 at times against their will without the knowledge of their parents? You lock them up at a space, barely feed them, maltreat them, convince them or rather coerce them into committing crime, and after which they get used to it and make it look like a norm. That is what they do basically. But what I was trying to explain was that the danger of this is that when the internet fraud stop paying them, they divert into the business of armed robbery, kidnapping, and money making ritual. I'm speaking from experience. This is my 40 as a PRO, and we have over time paraded some of them, which our investigation revealed that they were into this before. When they stop paying, they're not diverted to other form of crimes.
So that means that these teenagers they're culpable to be tried for internet fraud?
Obviously.
Okay. And let's talk about the role of social media in all of this. Do you see, what's the role of social media in, conscripting these boys to travel miles to go all the way to Kaduna State, to Delta State, to Hustlers Kingdom? And do you think that this Hustlers Kingdom have other offshoots outside of Delta State?
I don't think. It's a fact. It is a fact. If we want to pretend about it, then we're just telling ourselves lies. It is a fact, and it is not only in Delta. Go to some of the biggest hotels in this country and check the categories. In fact, one hotel owner once told me in confidence, say, Bright, these guys want to arrest like this, so our business will follow. That is already a problem on its own. So it is not just in Delta. They have it even in Ghana. It is there in Ghana from our investigations. They have HK in so many parts of this country. Yes, it may be rampant in the south part of this country, but it is also in the west. I am not sure if it is in the north, but I know it is in Abuja. So I know they also have HK there. The issue is identifying them, and their location is what we are working on. However, information is key. People sit back and just feel the police can perform magic. No, the police cannot do anything without information. Information is key. Give us information. You can even give us this information as an anonymous person. You can come through there. I've gotten complaints on there that we acted and arrested the culprits. So social media too is key. Even though they are using it to propagate their business, we can also use it to our own good. We can also use it against them. We can also use it to fight them. We can also use it to discourage people. We can also use it to discourage our youth. We can also use it to encourage our parents to monitor the activities of their children. Like I said, apart from parading them, I also made use of my platforms. I posted it on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, and on Facebook. And I saw the number of impressions it gathered. It has gathered over 10 million impressions. So just imagine if 10 million persons have come to find out that this is what is happening, and if they don't watch their children might also be coerced into doing this. So social media has its own good side and also its bad side.
SP Edafe, might I ask, because we're pressed for time, in interrogating the 123 teenagers, what was one of the crucial information that can help, in this investigation? Might you share?
Okay, one crucial part of this is that, like I stated on that day, parents are not mindful of their male children. They are just too concerned about the female children. And that is why some of them will wait 1-2 weeks before they realize that we've not seen so person for 2 weeks. That is one. Then secondly, the unnecessary desire for quick wealth is part of what is giving rise to this. Then thirdly, some of these are youths commit this crime with so much impunity and temerity, believing that all die and die. Anyhow you want to make money, just make money. And that is so wrong. That is so wrong. You see a child that has not been seen by the parents for 9 months, and that parent has not made report in any of the police stations that the child is missing. And you discover that same child can even come back home after 9 months with a vehicle of 60 million naira and they will be celebrating that child. So I'm attributing this to parental failure. People don't like believing me, but I know the home I came from and I understand what I mean. I can attribute this to parental failure, not just societal failure, not just the government. Though we all have our roles to play, but parents should do their own bits.
All right. Well, and there's also the classification of wealth in Nigeria, or the glorification of wealth in Nigeria. But SP Edafe, I want to say thank you for joining us today, for honoring our invitation and coming on, and also thank you for all the work you've done. SP Edafe is our guest today for Big Story. We're looking at the Hustlers Kingdom Syndicate and the investigations ongoing in Delta State.
Apologies for the break there. Let's do Focus Africa. We focus on Ghana this time, where a 3-day protest has escalated into violent clashes between demonstrators and police. Dozens of protesters, including a minor, have been arrested following an outcry over the government's handling of illegal mining, or galamsey, and the worsening economic situation ahead of the upcoming December elections.
And with environment in peril and the economy struggling, tensions are mounting. Protesters, largely driven by young activists, demand greater government accountability. But what comes next? Joining us to discuss this unfolding situation are 2 guests. But first, we want to start with our first guest for today, who is Obed Nwosu-Adai. He is the convener of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa platform, and he joins us today to share his thoughts on the protest, arrest, and the larger issues affecting Ghana's future. Obed, many thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you for doing this with us, and apologies for keeping you waiting. But we're out of time, so let's just jump right into it. Let's start with the protest. It has clearly sparked a national conversation about illegal mining and economic challenges. What are your thoughts on the demonstrations ongoing?
Thank you very much for having me, and it's a privilege to be back here. So maybe to start off, I think I will pick a statement that our president made when he was inaugurated. He challenged Ghanaians to be citizens and not spectators. So exactly that. Ghanaians have realized that if we do not take matters into our own hands, the political elite will destroy our country. So that has led to these protests, largely led by the youth and activists who are calling on the political elites to wake up and address the challenges, especially the environmental challenges that is being caused by illegal mining. So yes, the protest is ongoing, and organized labor has even come to join the whole protest, and we have given government a deadline to meet, after which organized labor is planning to go on strike. So yes, the protest is ongoing, and unfortunately, as the protest is ongoing, legal protest, I must say, we sent letters to the police, we sent all the necessary documentation before going on the protest. The police, the political elites are weaponizing the police to attack protesters, which we think is unfortunate. We think we don't live in a banana state. We live in a democratic state where citizens have the right to protest, especially when we think our future is at stake. So that is what is happening in Ghana now.
That's very insightful there. But so let's talk about the illegal mining, shall we? Illegal mining, or galamsey, and correct me if I'm wrong, has had devastating effects on Ghana's environment, particularly its water bodies and forest, I hear. But can you explain how the mining practices has impacted cocoa farming, especially, because that's why you're here, and the livelihoods of many communities that are in Ghana?
Sure, thank you. If you look at the cocoa sector in Ghana for the past 4 years, 4 years ago, Ghana had its highest productivity, over 1 million metric tons. As we speak now, the 2023-2024 season, Ghana only got just about 500,000. So that is half of what we produce. And a recent study that was done by the Forestry Commission came out to show that over 19,000 hectares of cocoa lands have been taken over by these illegal miners. And illegal mining has always been in the system. Unfortunately, the current trend of illegal mining is being perpetuated by political people. So politicians behind these youth who are destroying our forests and our cocoa landscape. So if we are not careful, in the coming years, Ghana, that is the second largest producer of cocoa in the world, we might go to probably third or fourth, because we know that Ecuador is doing very well, and Colombia is also coming on stream. But the real problem is the quality of the beans that we produce. We know that these illegal miners use heavy metals like lead, mercury, cyanide, and studies show that these chemicals have a tendency to get into the root of these trees and go into the seeds or the fruits of cocoa. So we are afraid that our livelihood, we as farmers, our livelihood is at stake because of the selfish interest of a few politicians and political elites. They are destroying the livelihood of over 1.5 million farmers in Ghana that depend on cocoa as a source of livelihood. So for us, the farmers, we are angry, and we join organized labor, we join other civil society groups to protest and to condemn this blatant disregard for rule of law and the destruction of our environment, which is now affecting the very livelihood that we all depend on, which is cocoa. Cocoa contributes not less than 30% of the GDP of Ghana. And if we sit there for a few politicians to destroy our environment and also destroy our water, which is destroying our source of livelihood, then we will have ourselves to be blamed. But we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that they don't do that. And that is why we are on the streets, and that is why we are protesting. And it's unfortunate that the political elite are weaponizing the police, they are weaponizing the courts to subvert the will of the people, which is unfortunate. So we are calling on everybody, we are calling our neighbors. And that is where people don't understand. Water is such a way that it travels. So the Brim River, the Pra River in Ghana, it goes all the way to Ivory Coast. And so if our neighbors and the West African subgroup don't come in and call the leadership of Ghana to book, a time is coming that our neighbors will also be affected by the acts and inactions of the leaders in Ghana.
All right. Also, I'm going to come back and ask about the interests of the politicians you spoke so fervently about. But before that, for the sake of our viewers, could you please explain this word galamsey?
Well, galamsey is a word that was coined from gather and sell. So in the olden days, when mining was actually done environmentally friendly, where we were doing deep shaft mining, there were certain elements within the society that were going behind these big mining companies to gather the remnants of what they have done, and then when they gather the soil and then they sieve it, they get something to sell. So it was gather and sell, and then over time it has been coined into this word galamsey. So basically, galamsey means gather and sell, where the society or the youth and young people go after miners to go through the soil that they dug and to sieve and get the gold. So basically, in the olden days, it was done with artisanal tools, so with the pickers, with the shovel and all that. But now, in recent years, with the funding from China and the politicians, they are using excavators, big excavators, and that they have mounted on our water bodies, and they are destroying the water bodies and the soil, the environment, the forest of Ghana. So that is the whole idea of galamsey, gather and sell.
Galamsey, very interesting word. Now, you did mention also that there's interest from China and also the interest from the politicians. If this is affecting the ecosystem, if it's affecting crop production, the government must be very aware of it. What policies have they put in place to try and mitigate the effect of mining or galamsey?
My brother, you are spot on. So that is the multi-million question we are asking. We know that these politicians and their families live within the same society that we all live in, and they are seeing the effects of the mining on our water, especially the drinking water that we are having now, and also on electricity generation, where some of the dams that generate power are also under threat. But unfortunately, for their own selfish parochial interest, these politicians are enacting new laws that are mandating them, that are giving them authority to go into the forest reserve. A case in point is a new law, which is the LI 2462, which was passed under the cover of darkness. And I say under the cover of darkness because nobody in civil society, and I am a forester, I work within the civil society space, and I've been working on it for about 15 years. We never heard about this law, that it was being enacted. And there is a process every government goes through to enact laws and policies. They did not go through the laid down processes. They just, under the cover of darkness, took this law to Parliament and passed it. And based on that law, they are doing things that are destroying our water bodies. So what we are saying is that yes, there might be these policies and laws, but the policies and laws to the fact that they are not addressing the concerns of the people they are null and void, and we are challenging them. And one of those organizations that are challenging the law in court, we have filed a suit in court to challenge this law, and we are saying that the law is not correct and because it is not serving the interest of Ghanaians. So these politicians, backed by some certain elements in China and other places, are hiding behind the law and policies of Ghana to destroy our environment. This is what we, the youth and the organized labor and civil society, are calling on the government to desist from doing. It's sad that when the politician is sick, they take them to Europe for medical attention, but they are rather destroying the water bodies that we depend on. And we are very sure that in the near future, sicknesses like cancer and other things become prevalent here, and we don't have the money to go to South Africa or China or Turkey for medical treatment. We depend on the water to survive, and that is why we are against this political class who are taking over the country and destroying our future.
Oh, but it's always very interesting when I speak to other African countries as well, because one thing is certain, we are both sides of the same coins. It's always interesting to see all this dynamics play out. But what has been the response from the government in regard to the demands of the protesters?
Well, like they always do, when you protest, they come out to issue statements and set up committees. So in this current protest that we began, the president came out to make a statement, and he set up a committee, a 5-member committee to go into certain and find out the root causes and also make proposals to how to resolve it. What they have also done is to send the police and the military into some of the hot spots. My sister and my brother, this is not the first time that we have done this. About 7-8 years ago, 2017, a similar thing happened, and when the president sent the army and the police into the Galamsey areas, but we were in Ghana when just after 2-3 years they stopped, and all these Galamsey operators went back to the field. What we are saying is that we need something that is lasting, something that will actually address the problem. And just a knee-jerk reaction like taking the police and the military to the field for just a few days will not address the problem. What we are saying is that there should be a ban, a total ban on all mining in forest reserves, in water bodies, and in areas that are not permitted to mine. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that we need to go and review our environmental standards in mining. We need to look at where and how mining is done in Ghana, and these are the only ways we can address the problem, not a knee-jerk reaction by politicians, by setting up committees that will waste public funds, by taking police and military to the field for a few days. That will not really address the problem. We have sent an 8-point solution to how we think the problem can be resolved. We are calling on the president and the government to listen to us and act on those points that we have sent to them.
We understand that there's been some arrests as well on the sidelines of the protests. Can you speak more on that, please?
Yes. Unfortunately, just as I said initially, we gave the police and the government notice. So we followed all the legal processes to be able to do the demonstration. And unfortunately for us in Ghana, there is this law that allows the police to go to the courts at the blind side of protesters to seek an injunction on the protest if you want to do. So the police attempted to do that, but we had already planned to go to the street, and we had already informed and we had already mobilized our people to go to the street. And so when the people came to the street, the police, standing on this law and on this court and authority that has been given to them, on the blind side of the protesters, came and then they antagonized the protesters, and in doing so, some of our people were arrested. And the worst part is that in Ghana, everybody is entitled to bail when you are arrested, except when it's a capital offense, and such as murder, or let's say you are dealing in narcotics. Those are the non-bailable offenses. And treason too is non-bailable. But just a simple protest gone wrong is bailable. Our lawyers went to court to bail these people, and the court refused under the disguise of that these law-abiding citizens were rather doing treasonous act, or that what they were doing was treason, which is absurd, which is just a circumvention of rule of law. And we protested. We said that it's not fair, and we are calling on all leadership, not only in Ghana but also in Africa, to call on our president and the political elites to abide by rule of law. We follow the law. We follow the process. It is them that went behind our back just in order to create this whole mess that we have, to say that we should stop the protest. So yes, that's what has happened, and about 40 of them were arrested, including a minor. And some of them have medical conditions. And as I speak to you, 2 of them are at the police hospital receiving treatment because they had medical conditions and they had to be taking their medication, and they were not allowed. Some of them were not even allowed to be fed. And in Ghana, when you arrest, it's a family of the person that has been arrested that brings them food. The police don't have resources to feed them. And because some of them travel very far to come and do the protest, some of their family members don't even know that they have been arrested, and so they don't have access to food, access to water. And this is what is happening in Ghana. That is seen as a beacon of democracy in Africa. This is what the police is doing to legal protests and citizens of the country. Again,
it just informs my opinion that both countries are just different sides of the same coin. But finally, for you, Obed, before I let you go, what next? What next with the protesters? What next with the government? What do we hope to see, or what do the protesters hope to see after the protest?
Well, the first point I want to make is that not only in Ghana, but all in Africa, the youth and civil society. One of our former UN Secretary General, Kofi Annan, said that civil society, we are the conscience of the society. If we fail to act, then the politicians and other people will just circumvent the law. So what we are saying is that citizens need to rise up against autocratic leadership, and even in leadership that seems to be what do you call it, democratic, but they are espousing dictatorship. We need to rise up against them, just like it happened in Kenya and it happened in other countries. The youth needs to rise up. The second thing is that for Galamsey, we know, our politicians know that it is destroying our water, it is destroying our livelihood. They need to act. And if they are failing to act, we are calling on the UN, on the AU, on ECOWAS to call the leadership of Ghana to book. I mean, they need to call them to order and know that what affects Ghana affects like it affects Togo, it affects our neighbors. And so they need to call them to order. And also, finally, I want to talk to our politicians that you are elected for a period of time. They should know that they are not a monarch. They will leave. And so when they come into power, they should be careful how they act, because election is just about 3 months away in Ghana. And if politicians continue to act this way, a time will come that we, the citizens, will not even be interested in voting for so-called political leaders, because they have failed us and they continue to fail us. Not only in Ghana, and I can say on authority that in other African countries, our politicians are failing us. And if politicians are failing us, then the youth, we need to stand up and resist this failure of the political elites.
And that's just nicely put there. Obed, want to say thank you. But Obed Unwosu Adai, he is the convener of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa platform.
Thank you very much, Obed.
Thank you.
And a very interesting way to bring an end to the show here today. We started at 8 a.m. and Bob's, your uncle, before you knew it, we were talking about the EFCC.
How risky it was.
Yeah, Bob, risky. But a very interesting lineup we had from today. I absolutely enjoyed our conversation about unemployment in Nigeria. And I'm hoping that the audience took away something there.
Absolutely.
But very interesting, the situation in Ghana, because it's exactly what we're facing here in Nigeria, except that with ours, it has the instance of terrorism and kidnapping to go with it, to make it a Nigerian
the charge
problem. Let's add our special ingredient, terrorism, you know, and everything. But very interesting show.
And alien persons as well, who are there trying to, in this case, a Briton accused of hijacking or trying to use a protest to hijack a democratically elected government. It's wild when I think of how these people come up with stuff. But anyway, I digress. We want to say thank you for joining us today on the Today Show. It's been quite the show from Saturday all the way down to Sunday. It's been all the very best, reiterating what happened the entire week to give it to you more nuanced with plenty of perspective and more insight. You want to join us again next week Saturday at 8 a.m. sharp. Until then, it's goodbye from me. I am Judith at TV.
And I'm Azino Appeal. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.